I don't watch much TV other than live sports and a couple reality shows. I've seen almost every season of Survivor. But generally, if I like a show, it gets canceled. Just happens. Years ago, one of my favorite shows was What Not to Wear. Every week, Stacy and Clinton, two ultra-hip stylists, surprised somebody who had no fashion sense, but whose friends and family had sent a video asking for help. For the record, if your family sends a video to a reality show asking for help, you have more problems than just fashion. Stacy and Clinton were right on the edge of mean. They evaluated what the person currently wore, and then they taught the clueless dresser how to shop for clothes that looked right and fit right. My favorite part was when they went through the subject's current closet. There was none of this Marie Kondo does it spark joy nonsense. They were ruthless. They threw everything away that wasn't in fashion, that didn't fit right, was the wrong color. Clinton and Stacy started with a big rack of clothes. In my favorite episode, when they got done going through someone's closet, all that was left was one white shirt. They threw away everything else. And at the end of the show, like most reality shows, there was a big reveal, and the formerly fashion-challenged person became a fashion plate, making a whole new statement with their clothes.
Let's go take a look at the clothes of yours that we have here. Yikes. It's like looking at the back pages of Field and Stream.
Courtney of Guns and Ammo
is
going in the trash.
And all of these jeans are the same brand, aren't they, Stacey?
Yes, I think they are. All right, are you ready to go shopping?
I think.
Bye.
I'm going to show you this dress. This might be a nice, sort of simple, elegant option.
And look, I found you the shirt dress in black.
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun! A dress!
I have no idea why that one woman was crying because Courtney got a dress. Seems a little overdone. Clinton and Stacy knew if you want to make a new fashion statement, you have to start over. You can't keep the old stuff because if you do, human nature is you'll put it right back on again. A new life with Jesus works the same way. You have to get rid of all the old junk and crud and put on Jesus. That's the feel of what Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 4. Before we get there, let me set the setting. The book of Ephesians is a letter written by Paul to a group of churches Paul wrote it while in prison. These churches were struggling with division and conflict between Jews and Gentiles. Each felt that they were superior to the other. Up to this point of the letter, Paul challenged the Jewish Ephesians to be open to their Gentile brothers and sisters, to look past the cultural norms that separate and divide, and instead find unity in Jesus. Paul emphasized not to look down on the other, and he pushed hard on the Jews to accept the Gentile brothers and sisters as part of their family. Remember, this letter was read out loud to the congregation, and I imagine the Gentile Christians reacting to the first part of the letter saying, "We told you so. We Gentiles are accepted. Don't expect us to be like you. We're going to live our way." But then came verse 17. So I tell you this, and insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do in the futility of their thinking. Ephesians were known for their evil, corrupt ways. The citizens practiced magic and sorcery. There were numerous temples to gods and goddesses. The church was surrounded by evil. Paul said, you can't keep living that way. As a Christian, you have to be different. Anyone who believes in Jesus is part of the family of God. We're not separate from each other, but we are absolutely supposed to be different from the people around us who don't yet know Jesus. Jews were no longer defined as Jews, Gentiles as Gentiles. Instead, both groups were Christians. They were all new and had to leave behind their old ways of thinking and behavior. Paul said, I tell you this, I insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do in the futility of their thinking. They're darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because the ignorance that's in them due to the hardening of their hearts. Having lost all sensitivity, they've given themselves over to sensuality, to indulge in every kind of impurity with a continual lust for more. In that description, Paul described the pattern of sin then and now. First, your thinking's broken. You're confused. You don't know what's right. You see things through the wrong lens. You make all kinds of mistakes. Wrong living always starts with wrong thinking. Sin always starts with a thought. When your thinking is broken, you cut yourself off from God and the life He has for you. That feeling of separation leads to more sin and mistakes. This is the stage when you say things like, well, I can just no longer sense and feel God's presence. I don't hear His voice. Of course you don't. You're separated. Separated from God, you keep going downhill. You stop listening for His voice or truth. You become hard-hearted, no longer caring about right or wrong. People who are hard-hearted can be in a room where the Spirit of God is moving, people are weeping and worshiping, and they feel absolutely nothing. One of my regular prayers is that God will keep my heart tender. I fear a hard heart that loses sensitivity to God and others. I'm not embarrassed that I cry easy, because tears are the product of a tender heart. Sin causes your heart to be hard. The hard heart no longer feels conviction for sin. Sensitivity to God is gone, and then ultimately you reach the point where you just don't care. That's how the worst evil in our world happens. You look at an atrocity, you look at things going on in our world right now, and you say, how can he do that? How can they do that? They don't feel anything. The New Living Translation says they've lost all shame. And then you overcompensate. Like a drug addict needs another hit, you look for something, for anything. You attempt to fill emptiness with pleasure, but it's not enough. You keep looking for something that'll make you feel good and look good. That pursuit drives you, but no matter how much you get, it's never enough. Paul's word to the Ephesian Christians was, it's not enough to just claim the label Christian. It's not enough to just attend church, pray a prayer. You got to be different. You're followers of Jesus. Act like it. Don't live like those around you whose hearts are hardened by sin. You were taught with regard to a former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. When you make the decision to become a Christian, Jesus brings hope, help, and healing. Thank God for hope, help, and healing. It's wonderful. It's true. But we have to be careful not to sell that as the whole deal. There is also a responsibility on your part to change your thinking and behavior. Jesus is not just a life enhancement. Pray a prayer and your life will be better. Following Jesus requires lasting change. Following Jesus requires a total makeover, a whole new you. God doesn't just heal your broken way of life. He heals you and he brings you to a new way of life. Your old self is worn out. It's useless. It never worked in the first place. So take it off and throw it away. Don't keep any of it. Get rid of all those ways of thinking and acting and speaking. Get rid of the habits. The thing that used to define you doesn't define you anymore. You are new in Jesus. It's a change. In order to put on the new, you first have to take off the old. Get rid of it completely. That might mean pouring out your alcohol, throwing away your drugs, finding new friends. Some of you might even have to move to a new city. Probably means changing your cell phone number, People who say, well, I really want to change. One of the first things I ask is, have you changed your cell phone number? Well, I couldn't do that. Then my friends couldn't find me. That's why you need to do it. If you really want lasting change, you got to cut off access. Get rid of all the stuff. That was the old you. The old you wasn't working, so why would you go back to wasn't working? People keep just enough of the old that they go back to it. Don't do it. Don't go dumpster diving for the things that once made you comfortable. That's not who you are. Paul said, Jews are new, Gentiles are new. We're no longer Jews and Gentiles. That thinking's gone. We are all new in Christ. People watching you should be able to tell something's changed. They should know Jesus is in your heart because of the way you live. Jesus is on display, not hidden. You are new. And because you are new, things change. And you say, well, what kind of things change? Well, you got to cut your hair. No more jeans with holes in them. You can't go roller skating. I'm kidding. It's none of that. Some of you are like, oh, no, I came to the wrong church. No, it's not that stuff. Paul described the changes. They're deeper. They're not outward stuff. They're inward stuff. Paul said, therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to his neighbor, for we are all members of one body. The old you was a liar. The new you speaks truth. Take off lies and put on truth. I'm not just talking about technical truth. You've all heard those. Some of you are expert at those. Did you say Randy was a jerk? I didn't say that. I didn't say Randy was a jerk. What you said was that Randy is a total jerk. But I didn't say Randy's a jerk. Technical truths are lies. Anything you say or do designed to make someone believe something other than truth is a lie. You got to put that off. When a true follower of Jesus speaks, you don't have to investigate. They're truth tellers. The old you is a liar. The new you is a truth teller. In your anger, verse 26, don't sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. Do not give the devil a foothold. It's one of the most misinterpreted verses in the whole Bible. So many people take that to mean, this is awesome. I'm allowed to be angry as long as I don't sin. The emotional rush of anger is a natural response to things that happen. If you hold on to that anger, if you keep it alive, it becomes bitterness. And there is little as ugly as a bitter Christian. Angry bitterness is not consistent with a Jesus-focused life. The picture here is someone who responds to that impulse of anger. You can't control the impulse, but you can control what you do with it. So quick that it's gone the same day. You don't even let the sun go down while you're angry. The old you was driven and controlled by your temper. The new you is self-controlled. National Institute of Health surveyed 34,000 adults, found that 10% of Americans lose their temper to the point that they lose control. Anger triggered by little things becomes frequent temper outbursts, or anger that leads to loss of control, hitting people, throwing things. 10% of America. And I think that percentage is way low based on what I'm seeing. We live in an angry, offended society. In the last 2 years, the pressure of the pandemics and politics and now war have pushed people to the breaking point. Usually rational people have become violently angry. Families were divided. Friendships were lost. Social media is the new battleground. I've watched people who I considered to be reasonable, gentle followers of Jesus turn into maniacal monsters on Facebook. And I've watched people I considered unreasonable become absolutely ballistic with anger. People get angry and lose their temper at politicians, who, by the way, newsflash, don't read your Facebook. Okay? I don't know what planet you live on, but President Biden isn't reading your Facebook. You can say whatever you want to him. He doesn't see it. They get angry at preachers. And let me help you. We don't look at your Facebook either. Okay? So you get mad because you post something on Facebook and you think everyone should know it. We don't read it because we've seen so many angry, complaining attacks on your Facebook that we quit following you. We didn't unfriend you because then you'd know it. We just unfollowed you. We don't see anything you say because we don't want that in our spirit. So you're wasting your breath. Or it's not breath, it's... You get mad at police and doctors and the media and clerks at Walmart and servers and delivery drivers. People get mad at their kids and been on Facebook, their spouses. The last couple weeks, gas prices, lots of angry posts about gas prices. I'm so confused who I'm supposed to be mad at about the gas. Well, there's so many options, I'm just not sure. The Bible has a lot to say about people that lose their temper. Psalm 37, refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it leads to evil. For those who are evil will be destroyed. Those who hope in the Lord will inherit the land. James chapter 1, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness God desires. This is one I like the King James better. It says, the wrath of God worketh not, the wrath of man worketh not the righteousness of God. In other words, when you're angry, you don't accomplish God's will. Ecclesiastes 7, do not be quickly provoked in your spirit, for anger resides in the lap of fools. Here's the principle. When you lose your temper, you lose. Every time. You lose friendships, relationships, and influence. For about 6 years, I think, I worked a second job at Wild River Country. I worked there for free because I just wanted to be around lost people. And I had different jobs. For part of 1 year, I was the complaint department, which was awesome. Because there is no one more qualified than me to listen to complaints. That's like a big part of my life. And so, but at Wild River Country, it was wonderful because I didn't care. So one of my favorite moments, a guy lost his sandal. Not both of them, just one. And so foolishly, he's walking around with one sandal just to feed that anger. And so he got to talk to me. He's in my face. He was yelling. He was pointing at me. And I waited till he'd run all the way down. I said, I got a question. Does that work for you? He's yelling, what do you mean? I said, I mean like at your job, when you do whatever that is that you're doing, does that work? Do people do what you want? Does that work with your wife and kids when you're screaming at them like that? Does that make them love you more? Is there a part of your life where that's effective? That was the wrong question. Didn't go well. But you lose every time. Worst of all, you lose the power of your testimony. Every time you lose your anger, you lose your temper, you first have to take off Jesus and put on your old self. Your anger gives the devil a foothold. It opens the door for the enemy to once again define you by sin and control you. Don't do it. Don't give the devil opportunity. You say, well, Pastor Rod, that's easy for you to say because you don't have a temper. You don't get mad. Quit making lame excuses for your sin. The problem's not your personality. It's a lack of self-control. You're missing a fruit of the Spirit that is supposed to be part of the new you. Put on Jesus. Paul said, he's been stealing, must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with his own hands that he might have something to share with those in need. The old you was a taker, looking for any opportunity to take for yourself, even if it costs others. And it's interesting, Paul says the opposite of stealing is working and sharing. The new you shares. Someone who's put on Jesus is generous with their time, their money, their possessions, their attention. They look for opportunities to share And that stands out. And you do amazing at this. Way to go. But now it gets a little more difficult. Verse 29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what's helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth is a high standard. Bad language should never come out of the mouth of a Christian because it's out of character with your new life. Inappropriate jokes, profanity, and words that tear down are inconsistent with the new you. The new you builds people up. When angry, hateful, ugly words are replaced with helpful, encouraging words of love and kindness, everyone will notice. Someone who's put on Jesus is always aware of the impact of their words. Proverbs 18:21 says the tongue has the power of life and death. Words can hurt or words can heal. Words can bring hope or words can crush dreams. Your words can tear up, tear down, or your words can build up. Your words can damage and destroy, or your words can bring confidence. Bullies use words to destroy the self-worth of others. Christians use words to restore the self-worth of others. And words are remembered forever. So let the memory of your words be filled with gentleness, kindness, and love. Psalm 19 sums it up. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Lord. Can you imagine if Christians got this right? And if they applied this to their social media? I mean, I know I harp on social media a lot, but this is a big deal. We got to get better at this. One reason is because unlike the adult generation, research shows that students increasingly see little division between their online and their in-person self. When they see you behaving badly on social media, it's the same to them as if you're doing that in person. It's no wonder we see an increase in inappropriate behavior among our students when we model that for them. We're reaping what we've sown. You get mad because kids today don't respect authority. Even as your Facebook posts, you slam every authority in your life. Why would they be different than you? You might think your outburst was just a post on Facebook or Instagram, but it's all the same to our students. We must do better if we want to see what we're praying for. My idea, I think we should create a social media penalty box. When you post something not pleasing to the Lord, first time, you get 5 days off social media. Second days, 10 days. Second time, 10 days off social media. Third time, you're kicked off. And if you find another platform and you do it again, we take your computer, we take your phone, we take your stuff. So you just can't. And it's probably not a mistake that right after talking about your words, Paul says, don't grieve the Holy Spirit of God. One author said, all sin is painful to God, but sin in his children breaks his heart when his children refuse to change the ways of their old life for their new. God grieves. Sin makes God sad. He's grieved. I don't ever want to make God sad. And then just in case they didn't get it, jump into verse 31. Paul re-emphasized for them what parts of the old self had to be removed. He said, get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every other form of malice. Malice means any evil thing. In other words, Paul said, just because I didn't mention something in this list doesn't mean it's acceptable. Get rid of everything associated with your old way of life. Be done with it. Don't let it be seen in you. Instead, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as God in Christ forgave you. The new you is kind, compassionate, and forgiving. The right response to God's forgiveness is to extend forgiveness to others. And now let's look at the whole outfit. This is what followers of Jesus should put on. The new you is a self-controlled truth teller who generously shares, builds people up, is kind, compassionate, and forgiving. How much would that kind of person stand out? How much would that kind of student stand out at school? How much impact would we make on our city if that was an accurate description of every Christian who called First St. Hilaire their church home? How many people would we lead to Jesus if we were that? People would notice and wonder what makes the difference. People should be able to watch and listen to you and know you're a follower of Jesus. The principle is Jesus on the inside transforms the outside. If the way you react and treat people doesn't change, if it doesn't reflect the nature and character of Jesus, then there's not enough Jesus on the inside. If the outside is mean, angry, bitter, and hurtful, there's something wrong here. Okay, if you've tuned out, I want you to tune back in. Okay? Tune back in, because I just want to tell you one more thing, then we're going to pray. Not everyone who attends church has put on Jesus. And you'll hear someone say, her angry, bitter, critical words make so many people mad. I don't see how she can be a Christian with the way she gossips and talks about people. I don't either. People stay away from church because of people like that. And what you need to understand is that person may have picked a label, but they don't have Jesus on the inside. Because if they did, it would change the outside. So instead of overreacting and saying, I'm never going back to that church because of what she said about me, or I'm never going back to any church because they're mean, pray for that person that they'll get more of Jesus on the inside. Don't make your decision about Jesus based on people who claim to follow him but don't. Makes no sense. If Jesus is on the inside, it's seen on the outside. It's reflected in how we love people. It's reflected in what we do with our money. It's reflected in how we talk to people. It's reflected in the way we handle anger. It's seen in the way we respond when things don't go our way. Jesus on the inside changes everything. If it hasn't changed, then you need to get Jesus on the inside.